Hey everybody, and hey South Bay. I'm Jeff Pollard, solarpowerthepeople.org, and Jeff Pollard 11. I'm with Adam and Isabel, and we're gonna continue our journey.
All right.
These two went all across the most northern parts of North America on a road trip. Took a while.
We wanted to do the biggest circle that one could physically do in the continent. Continent meaning U.S. and Canada for our purposes. We started going up the west coast, made our northernmost stop at the Arctic Ocean in northern Alaska. We hit like the westernmost you can go, and also in Alaska. Then 3 weeks all the way across Canada, ending up at the easternmost you can go in a beautiful place called Newfoundland. And to celebrate Newfoundland, I wanted to surprise you with a little something or other. A little bit of Newfoundland rum here for you, called Screech. I'm not sure if we went over this, but
we did.
Called Screech because an officer during World War II took a shot of that, and this is when it was like bathtub stuff.
Okay.
Let out an ear-piercing screech, and that kind of named it ever since.
Okay.
But this is straight from Newfoundland. You can't even get it here, so
oh man,
hope you enjoy that.
That actually means a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna make a fool of myself. I'm a lightweight. It doesn't take much, but I definitely want to try it on.
This will make the conversation
camera.
a lot more interesting.
Oh, that's good stuff. Actually, that's pretty smooth.
Yeah.
I did not expect that. Screech.
The first and only rum made entirely out of codfish.
All right, you're lucky. You're lucky, Newfoundland Screech. You're gonna kind of be presented. The whole
Very
time.
nice, very nice. Let's advertise that.
Yeah, if you haven't guessed it, we're already on a few parts in, and we're at the tail end of their journey. I just want to say thank you, and I'll say it after too. But this has been very enjoyable for me. I've actually gotten to know them because this process has taken a while just through scheduling and stuff, and it's been, these people are just gems.
No, and thank you too. I mean, just the chance to be able to talk about what I did in the level of detail that we are is honestly really special. Like, I spent years, literally years, planning this thing all throughout quarantine and lockdowns and everything. Like, this is what I was pouring my heart and soul into, and to actually be able to talk about it in this way really means a lot. So thank you.
No, that's really, it was really fun. I mean, I could listen to this. It was just because they actually, like he said, he planned it, so they actually cared, and it wasn't just like, oh, we flew here. They drove, they went through crevices, they went, they did their stop, so it was really fun.
Yeah.
But thanks again, and thank you for that. That's really cool.
Yeah, enjoy.
I'm gonna make you guys share at some point in the future. But, but yeah, let's get into it. I think we left off in the Keys.
Yeah, we got. I mean, easternmost point was Newfoundland, but yeah, went south from there to the southernmost point that you can drive to in the States, Key West.
America, yeah.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, all the way down there. Have a whole monument there, 90 miles to Cuba and all that. I mean, Key West is, of course, just a fun time. It's, fun little town. It's a party town.
Like I said, I want to visit, so.
It's so much fun. And the drive to get there, driving over the ocean and everything, and island hopping is so cool.
Okay.
Plus, like, the best Cuban food out there. Like, you can basically smell Havana in the distance.
If you're like a good enough swimmer, you can swim. That's crazy.
That's happened. Yeah, very much. Very much so.
Good for anyone who swam. You earned your right to get anywhere if you could do that.
Honestly.
But anyway, okay, so you're at the Keys. You crossed over. Should we talk about tailing back up, or do you recall anything?
Well, I mean, yeah, we got ourselves down there. We got ourselves to the southernmost point. We had a mojito at the southernmost point. Was able to kind of chat with the bartender about, well, guess where else we've been on this trip? The northern, this, and this. So that was fun, because that was kind of our last extreme point of the trip, and that's actually the furthest I had planned. Every other video leading up to this, I've had this huge binder.
That's true.
Of everything I had planned, but after I got to Key West, I was like, we're good. I can figure out, if I can figure out how to get to all these areas, I can get back from Key West.
Well,
plenty fine on myself.
Yeah, when you're back in your own country, there's that familiarity. You're just like, I'm less scared. I know these highways. I understand.
The interstate system's nice.
So you're just like, but yes, all right.
And the year prior, we had done this route just in the reverse, so we really knew what we were up against.
At least as far as Key West and up through Maine, we were stopped at Canada's border because of COVID stuff, but Yeah.
And I know obviously I'm gonna pop everything up, but it's Aloha Shirt Dad and
With underscores underneath.
underscores underneath, to make it difficult. No. But yeah, so please, he's one of those that you have to reach out to, like, just pick his brain or for
I
him to
will
help
plan
you.
you a road trip if you want me to. I can live it vicariously through you. At the very least, I can tell you where to eat.
All right, so are we now coming back up from Florida? Or are we
Yeah, I
kind
mean,
of
at
on
this
the
point,
west
we're heading home from
Okay.
this point. We drove back up through Miami, got some great food. I mean, literally, what we do, especially in that area, is you check out where Guy Fieri has been. Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Locations.com, I think it is, lays it all out. He has never steered us wrong once.
He knows food.
So
yeah.
we, especially in Florida, like
Really?
every other corner has a Triple D restaurant.
Do you know where is he from that area?
No,
Is
he's
he East
from
Coast area?
NorCal.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know enough about that guy. I just
Santa
know
Rosa,
he's-
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a Las Vegas alum there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
He's a West Coast guy, but
It's the flair he's got. All right. Thanks, Guy.
yeah,
for
we
all
work
that.
our way back up through Miami, work our way up back through Orlando to go to one of our favorite Triple D spots ever. It's a place called Mrs. Potato in Orlando, and it's a Brazilian potato restaurant, and they
Okay.
make these hashes that are about the size of my face and like an inch or two thick.
Do they
filled-
do those like potatoes that spiral on a skewer? Is that them or is that another thing?
I see. I would
You know
call
what I
that
mean? They're
like
like
fair
jam.
food. I'm not sure if that's
Okay,
specifically
okay.
Brazilian
Sorry,
or anything.
yeah, Brazil.
But oh my god, like they fill it up with like this like pulled beef, this like amazing like chickens dishes. Like it is
Like
ridiculous.
cream
It's just a little
cheese.
hole in the wall kind of area
in a
too,
strip
but
mall,
it is
which the best places are.
It is the best place. It is.
Was it
yeah.
a plate or was it that green light, red light thing? You know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
no, that's like a churrascaria. No, it's just a
Okay.
plate. I mean, you
Okay,
order
okay.
your, huge potato thing, and that's easily enough for two usually.
Fully loaded.
Yeah, if you're ever in Orlando, Mrs. Potato, I will drop that one right there. That is a must visit.
Now I need to know, is this like, do they have any kind of mascot related to Mrs. Potato? Or is
Mrs.
it-
Potato Head.
Yeah,
they
they
do?
have like
Okay,
little potato
okay.
head things all over the
Okay.
restaurant. It's so
I
much
just
fun.
want to clarify that. I was thinking it, so.
Seriously, I mean, there's no better place to eat in Orlando.
Okay.
Or Florida, I don't know.
There's
It's
tons
so
of great
good.
places,
It's
but this
so,
one's at the top of
so
the
good.
list.
Yeah.
But by the time we left, this was dinner at this point of day 54, I believe. And by the time we left our dinner, it was one of the biggest storms we had experienced over the entire trip. It was
You mentioned a few
coming.
things.
This was
the
one of
big
the
one?
big ones.
All right.
We were overall, especially in the more out there places, very lucky with our weather.
Okay.
But this is when we weren't. I mean, it was lightning coming down everywhere, like no visibility going through these Florida roads.
We actually had to
it was
pull off at
serious.
one
Yeah,
point.
we
Really?
pulled off and just like stopped for a while because I was like, this is just too bad to drive.
But lightning storms are so pretty.
Yeah.
Darn
It was like we were being smote by God at that moment. It was just boom, 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 boom everywhere.
But you guys brought
And it's
your
flat in
metal
Florida.
rods, right?
Yeah, I was driving one.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
So luckily we got a hotel just outside of Orlando.
So bad you unplanned an unplanned hotel stay?
Pretty much. Well, I
Okay.
mean, at this point the whole thing was unplanned. We were just heading home.
Ah, yeah.
But yeah, we just stopped, got ourselves a decent hotel, and just got inside and just
Watched
thanked
HBO.
everything that we made it there.
Okay.
I mean, Florida, of course, can have some intense ones. It wasn't a full-on hurricane or anything, thank
Uh-huh.
goodness, yet in the year.
It
But
was no joke. And I-
no joke of a thunderstorm.
Were you able-
Like even the locals were like pulling off the road. It wasn't just like, oh, look at me, I'm Mr. California, I can't handle rain. It was
Okay,
it was the
okay.
locals were pulling off. That's important to say.
That, no, okay. Way to stick up for us.
Right,
for
right.
us Californians, because rain.
Right.
But did you guys at least have like a balcony or porch or something where you can kind of enjoy it?
Oh no, we just got inside and just
Okay, you're
snuggled
done.
up, and we're
Okay.
just like, oh my god, we're alive, thank God. Let's live to see tomorrow.
Okay, because depending, I probably would have wanted to do some rain dance or something. No, I hear you. After a drive and
Just
all
like
that.
bring some of that to California, please.
No, I love. That's why when I visited Texas, it was just awesome to see lightning storms and like consistently too.
Yeah.
Just like, oh,
Yeah.
so pretty.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so all right.
Yeah, at
Lightning
this point,
storm.
I guess we're on day 55, one of our last.
Yeah.
We start heading up north out of Orlando. We make it up to Tallahassee for lunch, where we find...
Keep going north. Okay.
Yeah.
Or Tallahassee. Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
I mean, you drive west from Central Florida, you get wet pretty quick. But yeah, we drive up north to Tallahassee, finally hit the I-10. That's familiar for us in Southern California.
It makes you want to take that whole thing.
It's a beautiful drive.
Anyone else to make
Beautiful drive, yeah, 100%. And Izzy here finds a great vegan restaurant in the middle of Tallahassee. And you think of like Tallahassee being like deep south, like, you know,
Yeah,
everything's
vegan
gonna be
restaurant, yeah.
fried meat and everything. And we had like what? It was like this vegan, Reuben,
tempeh.
Tempeh Reuben, right?
What
Yeah.
is
And it was so
tempeh?
good.
Can
It's
you
like a
describe
vegan. Well, it's a
It's
made with nuts, right?
no, I'm not sure, but it basically get these grains in it. It's, if I were to compare it based on, like, you've had tofu, right?
I have tofu.
It's kind of, imagine a denser tofu. So
Mm.
you're able to replicate the meatiness that you might find in like a sliced meat.
Okay.
So it's not going to fall apart. It's not going to be squishy. You get that kind of denseness.
What's the flavor?
Oh, you can make it taste like whatever.
Yeah,
What
that's
does
the
yours
fun part.
taste like?
It's
Well,
kind
I
of-
mean, it was like a Reuben, so it had like that Thousand Island
Okay.
kind of sauce on it. It was solid. I mean, I didn't know Tallahassee would have good
Right.
vegan food, but here's this wonderful, wholesome little place.
I have to admit, I'm always hesitant, but I'm always willing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Because you know, just because you don't know what you're gonna get on your plate, so you're just like in terms of flavor. But yeah. So
That was a great, wholesome little
What was the
spot
name of
there.
it? Or do you remember?
I don't remember. Because that's not on my itinerary anymore.
right, I
You
know,
look
right?
up vegan restaurants in Tallahassee,
There's
you'll
gonna be
probably
two.
find it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from there, we just kept barreling west, which is pretty much the theme for the rest of it. But
Yeah.
ended up in New Orleans that night, which
Orleans.
was one of my favorite cities. It
I've
was a
always
new
wanted to
one
go.
for Izzy.
That's
So
my
we
go- That was a
found-
new one for you?
Yeah.
Okay, because I want to go there. So can we hear actually from a newbie's
Please,
perspective?
go for it.
So there's something special about New Orleans because unlike a lot of the cities that are currently in the U.S. or even Canada,
Okay.
it's been there for a lot longer and it's more established. So you get these kind of old world feel, you know, of a city that's kind of grew organically without cars. Unlike
It's very walkable.
Okay.
At least you know the old area, which is the French Quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
and because it was built because it was a strategic point right along the Mississippi River.
Okay.
And so it's also really hot, so you have this natural, I wouldn't say infrastructure, but city planning where you have these open like patios and balconies. So you get this beautiful wrought iron work. And
The
it's-
metal work on it's so cool.
Oh yeah. just
To walk
what I'm
around the French
saying.
Quarter, but it's not just the French Quarter either. At least this night of the 55th day, we spent pretty much around the French Quarter, got our Cajun cuisine, got our beignets.
You walk around the
Oh,
streets at
beignet.
night and you just hear jazz echoing through the alleyways.
So much
and-
fun. Oh, one of the greatest things we saw this night was right outside of Cafe du Monde, which is like the famous beignet place.
Okay.
There was this dude with I want to say a saxophone, playing the song When You Believe from Prince of Egypt. And it was one of the grooviest things I have ever heard. And we just stopped and listened to this guy. I think I gave him like a $20 bill
Yeah.
Is that
because
the
that was just the
animation movie?
coolest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic
And some of the
movie.
best music in that
I
one.
know, and I've never seen it, but I've
Oh,
heard
watch
of it.
that
Okay,
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then, oh my
like a
god,
good,
this guy's like groovy riffing saxophone cover
Okay.
was like, that was peak New Orleans.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like there's just performers everywhere, kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah, yeah. That's
And
awesome.
even the panhandlers will perform at you.
Sure.
You know, there'll someone who, like come up to you with like a riddle kind of thing, just to hook you. And then and then at some point after they get you chatting for a while, I remember this guy just came out with a little thing of soap, just dumped a bunch on my shoes and just started scrubbing.
Yeah,
like he was trying to
really?
clean my shoes.
Was
I
it
was
one
wearing
shoe?
sneakers.
Was it one shoe?
It was one shoe. I was
And then
wearing
he's like,
sneakers,
"Pay me
and he
for the
just
other."
like, and he just, and I immediately said, "Oh, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks," and he moved on. I had a soapy sneaker.
You're like, cool.
But that's New Orleans. I mean, people just talk with you. It's
Well, flashback, if anyone remembers the days when we were in cars and like some homeless person would like get a squeegee and they would just forcefully try to wipe your windshield and get $1 from you, and you're like, I didn't ask for this.
but it's a lot. It's a lot more forward in New
Good
Orleans,
times.
for better and for worse.
Yeah.
But it's an experience for sure.
It's a very human experience to be
Yeah.
able to,
And like
you
an
know,
old
try and
city
convince
kind of
someone.
experience, yeah.
It's like, I can offer you a service and you can offer me payment. Do we have a
Yeah,
deal?
Salesmanship, I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's not just, oh, give me money, which is fine,
Very
but
valid,
it's
but-
you know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna entertain you and
Yeah.
I'm gonna offer you something.
I admire anyone who like tries to earn that stuff.
Yeah, there's
you know what I
hustle.
mean?
Yeah, they got the hustle down there for sure. As well as amazing food. I mean, we spent a whole second day, or whole day 56 was also just exploring New Orleans, not just the French Quarter, but I mean, all around the city. We just like stopped into stores to buy art and just amazing food. There was this one restaurant, Turkey and the Wolf, that had these amazing sandwiches.
Sounds like a cool one.
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans is peak for
Did
food.
you go to
Food
the
and art.
House of the Rising Sun?
We almost stayed there. Well, every other
There's
building
a place
says
in
it's
New
it's the building of the House of the Rising
I know,
Sun.
Beautiful song. Look that up.
Oh yeah. We were listening to it on the way in, setting the mood and all that.
They're like tourists.
Yeah, exactly.
We like the song too, but tourists.
They capitalize off of it
Oh.
for sure.
Today was
Okay.
also really cool because we drove out to a really significant place.
That was on the way out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, are we done with New Orleans? Are we done talking about New Orleans?
Anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. I mean, just go out there. Go
New
explore.
Orleans
Experience
is one of
it.
those where it's like you want to talk about it, but it's just one of those towns in the U.S. that you just gotta like check out.
You gotta
you know what I mean?
experience it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just gotta be there. It's so cool. It's another crazy thing about New Orleans is you kind of go up by the river and you see, you know, the river level is up here and then the city level is like down here. And you're just like, oh my god. It's like this bowl that's under sea level,
Yeah.
surrounded by water.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's like, oh, that doesn't look right.
It's also where we got the worst mosquito bites on the entire trip.
Yeah.
I got like
Yeah.
infected.
Yeah.
Is
It's an
there
experience.
like humidity or anything over there? I mean,
Humidity?
yeah.
Oh
things
yeah.
that would attract those mosquitoes. Okay.
Big
Just-
time. I mean,
just
yeah,
double
that's
checking.
swamp. That is 100% swampland.
Because I want to do
There.
some Louisiana. What do you call those boats with the big fan on the back? Those
The
are-
airboats.
yeah.
Yeah,
Those are
Louisiana
things I
and
wanna-
Florida.
yeah, those are
That's
things I
the
wanna
place to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I want the true experience. Yeah,
Yep.
I like that. All right, cool. So you got some bites, and that was
And bites.
Incredible. Yeah, bites and bites.
Bites and bites. That was your kind of farewell.
You're just in the middle of the food chain there in New Orleans.
They're like, we know what you ate.
Yeah.
We want some. All right, cool.
So yeah,
we're
I mean
leaving
that's 2
Louisiana.
nights in New Orleans. Now we're at day 57, and instead of just continuing west, what I have us do is from New Orleans head south to the southeast to the very furthest point you can get to on the Mississippi Delta.
Okay.
That's
cool.
just all the way out. You're basically surrounded on all sides by the Gulf of Mexico.
You just see the houses start to get taller and taller, and the stilts go
Yeah,
higher
not
and
the
higher.
houses themselves. It's 1-story houses that are on stilts.
Three
yeah.
stories of
Like
stilts.
3-story stilts and a 1-story house on top of that. You feel like, you know, you accidentally kick a rock against one of those things, the whole thing will topple.
And you
Right.
start seeing for sale signs everywhere, like hand-painted ones, because people are fleeing because they realize this isn't a safe place to live, especially not anymore.
I would not want to be there for a hurricane.
Yeah, not even real estate signs.
Beautiful
just
out there,
hand-painted.
Just
but
handmade.
we'll
We'll take your
it
cash.
can be rough. It can be rough. It was
Yeah,
cool
I
though,
bet.
just being all the way at the end, just seeing how the landscape changes and everything, and just to the furthest bit of road
Okay.
out there in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
And right there at the end of the whole Mississippi.
Can you describe
system.
a little bit of the delta and all that? Just
I mean, it's pretty
big
flat.
Big old mouth. I don't know. Like, pretty cool.
I mean, it just keeps going, too. I mean, we
Okay.
got to the last bit of road. You could hop on a boat and go way further
Okay.
out, too.
You
But,
just
I
start
mean, you
seeing
see these
more water
massive...
than land.
Yeah.
More water than that. Okay.
And it's all puddles out there and these massive ships
Yeah.
coming up and down the river. It's very industrial. I'll tell
Oh,
you
really?
that. Yeah,
Oh.
very industrial.
Okay.
Because, I mean, yeah, that's one of the major, river courses going through the continent.
I want to say that was one of the
country.
areas where the whole BP thing happened too, right?
Pretty,
I know that
pretty
was-
nearby.
right,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that just for history's sake. But
Sure.
Yeah.
Context for the area.
But yeah,
that?
a lot of oil industry
context,
there. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
see like these huge refineries. I mean, if you think that Torrance refinery is big
Yeah.
and
Nothing.
ugly, it's like these things that are the size of Torrance
Okay.
that are refineries. It looks
The
like
flares going nonstop. You
yeah,
just see like
it's intense.
Why is that
Gas is
going
cheap
up?
though,
Okay. it's
so
cheap
that's
there.
the trade-off is
healthcare isn't though. So.
healthcare isn't, and you need it, but the gas is cheap.
And if you haven't already, watch one of the earlier videos where we actually talk about the Alaskan oil areas. And
Yeah.
then how it's just this kind of backwards, sending it over and then sending it back. And anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
But okay, so you checked out the Delta. How much time did you spend there? How much time could you save for somebody who wants to travel there you could spend there?
You just
People-
want to drive down. Yeah, there's not too much to see unless you get in a
Inefficient.
boat and you have then there's
Okay.
a ton to do. But we just drove out there just to be there and be at that furthest point and see all that kind of geographically interesting area. But then we just then we had a lot to do.
Okay.
We had to get all the way to Houston that day, so we drove through the rest of Louisiana, which is awesome. By the way, driving the I-10 through Louisiana, you get these stretches that are built up above the swamp. That's freeway above, like not built into the land, but like bridges that just go for miles and miles and miles
All right.
above the swampland. And there's people just like in their little boats below the I-10 just zipping around and everything. Yeah, yeah. And one thing that we learned that I can tell you if you are wanting to drive there is do be careful of your speed, because you're on this road that looks like, well, there's nowhere for a cop to hide. I can
Okay.
just drive however I want. But we got warned by a local that they have cameras at the beginning and the end
Okay.
of these long stretches. And if they catch you in too short of a time going through there, they'll send you a ticket by mail.
Oh!
Right?
Oh my!
They don't even need the cop. So
That's
careful.
different.
Because it looks like you can just do whatever because there is nowhere for a cop to hide. But they're looking.
Wow,
Careful.
that's different.
Mhm,
Okay, whoa,
mhm.
you've crossed this too fast. Wow,
Mhm.
How-
It's like,
how
and
dare
it's
you.
long too, so it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
you need to take like 17 minutes, but if you go through in 15, oh no, like,
Wow.
so careful there. There's long stretches too. There's not too many towns. You just go.
So you can take
um,
your time though. Then I take it.
Sure, yeah,
You could
why not?
Stop. You could stop on the bridge right there.
Yeah, go
Block
95
stuff.
and then like stop for 10 minutes and then go
Yeah.
95. Perfectly
Like, how
fine.
dare you? I'll cheat this system somehow.
Right.
Ha.
And we passed through,
That's different.
yeah,
Okay.
the bottom little bits of Mississippi and Alabama. Oh no, that was the day before. No, we're going through Louisiana, then you go right into Texas. And then we went to Houston. I've driven through Houston before, but never
Yeah.
really stopped. So we saw a couple of the sites around. We went to this incredible deli. It was Ziggy and something. It was
Okay.
a very famous deli, New York style. I mean,
Surrounded by
menu,
playbills.
yeah, playbills everywhere. Like a menu that's like miles long. It was so fun. It wasn't like, proper Houston kind of food. It was like a little bit of a, New York revisit, but it was
Okay.
seriously good. I would highly recommend
Yeah.
that deli if you're anywhere around there.
I only stayed at Houston for a little bit. I wanted to give it more of a shot because I didn't even go into like where there's skyscrapers. And all
Yeah.
that, the
It's
tall
a
buildings.
huge.
Yeah.
It's like the 4th largest city in America.
Really now?
Something like that. It's
Okay.
huge. It's and
Because the section I
amazing
went
food.
down, I would have thought that. All right, cool.
Another thing that Houston's famous for that we didn't get to try is its Viet Cajun food. You have Vietnamese fishermen out there making Cajun cuisine, and that's supposed to be pretty darn good. As well as, of
Okay.
course, barbecue and all that. But we wanted to stop by the deli, and I was happy we did.
Yeah.
Because that was seriously good.
Do you recall what you guys got?
Ooh, I got like a steak and onion dish that was just
Perfectly
absolutely
cooked
ridiculous.
New York strip steak.
Yeah, just ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I
Like,
could always go for
perfectly
that.
cooked.
Yeah.
Perfectly cooked.
I mean, you could go there for every meal of your life and order something different. The menu's that
I
huge. You could hide behind the menu, you know? So much fun. So much fun.
I always like those because it's like just a huge tease, especially if you're a tourist. You're like, how do I find my way back here so I can try these things?
Yeah.
How does Uber Eats get all the way over here? how do we plan this?
You gotta drive yourself out. There's plenty of great food out there.
Okay.
But
No,
yeah.
Texas. I had a good time in Texas, and I always say their food is worth it. Like they're known for
Totally.
that. So, yeah.
Totally. The driving's crazy. Yeah, the drivers are absolutely unhinged in Texas, so careful of that.
They'll go really fast and then really slow. There is no idea that I am a part of something called traffic. It's just
Right.
I am in a car doing what I need to do or want
You
to
get that
do.
Texas individualist mindset. There's no flow of traffic. There's just
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah.
I want to say Texas and Arizona are both those types that like kind of cut you off too. They're
Yeah.
Sure.
they're a little more tighter with their turns into your lane. You're like, really?
Texas
Yeah.
is worse.
Okay.
I'll say that pretty definitively.
Florida too.
Florida's really bad, but yeah, Texas is
Yeah.
very bad.
Okay.
Gorgeous to drive through, but careful with the drivers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we stayed the night around the Houston area.
And what's the weather like around this time?
This was nice. Good weather, thank
Okay.
goodness. I
Is
mean,
it
we were there
summertime
during late
and-
summer, so we were there in the middle of hurricane season, but
Because they get some heat too, and like drastic weather
Oh, big
changes
time.
also. So
Yeah.
it's okay.
But yeah, I mean, we were very lucky traveling around the Gulf at this time during hurricane season. This was like early August
Okay.
at this point,
It just hadn't hit yet.
it just hadn't hit yet. They had a bad hurricane season later on, but we were very lucky. We were ready at any point. Another reason we didn't plan this stretch is we are in the Gulf during hurricane season. If we just got to bail out on an itinerary, you just got to bail
Yeah.
and drive inland as fast as you can.
Now, in the earlier videos, they do describe their car and what they had to do and all that stuff. So, do you still have these like broken down spare tires still in your
Yeah.
car? Did you like
Yeah.
ditch them?
No, it took them
And-
the whole way around.
Okay,
Yeah.
and did you
lots of
have-
waiting in the car for sure.
And I forgot, did you guys have room where worst case scenario you could camp in it?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
No, there's plenty of hotels at this point anyway. It's
I
not
know,
like,
I know,
you
but
know,
just in terms
northern
of-
Alaska where there's like 2 hotels hours apart. There's plenty.
Like
Okay.
worst case scenario, if we needed to like put our seats back in more of a reclining position, we
Yeah.
could stay uncomfortably in the car. That was doable, but it wasn't outfitted for like a
Okay.
pull-up mattress or even a for us
No,
to
we
lay
had way
down.
too much stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we had to pack for so many different climates. We had to pack for all the way up by the Arctic Ocean where we were wearing our parkas.
Yeah.
All the way over to Newfoundland where we had to bring our rain jackets. We had to wear like, pretty significant layers. And then all the way down to Key West where the least clothes you
Beach
could wear,
in
the
90s.
better.
Yeah.
And then all the way across where, days could be different from one another. It was still warm, humid, but
Mhm.
it could rain. So we had to pack a lot of clothing.
Yeah. But yeah, at this point, it's day 58. We wake up just outside of Houston, and instead of just taking the I-10 straight across Texas, I decide, let's make this a little bit more interesting. Take the Gulf all the way down to the Mexican border.
Okay.
To the southernmost tip of Texas. There's a city called Brownsville down there, and that's also where SpaceX has a launch pad. So we got to actually like see that, drive right past, see like rockets set up to go and everything. Got all the way out to the beach to the very last bit of Gulf that's the United States and
Okay.
not Mexico.
Yeah.
Where we were
stone's
actually
throw
literally
away.
able to drive on the beach, which is wild. You can't really
Oh,
do that
is
here.
wild.
The
So
entire
we-
time I was like, I don't know if we should be doing this.
And I was like,
This
who's
is
going to
wrong."
stop us? We're driving on a beach up to an international border. At some point, someone's going to have to stop us. But then we could drive right up to the border, which at that point, that's the Rio Grande. And that's where the Rio Grande empties out into the Gulf.
So
Okay.
you see this little stream of fresh water with fish starting to realize, oh no, it's getting
It's
higher
going-
and higher
We
salinity.
can't live here.
Right.
And they're just flopping and dying
Aw.
out into the Gulf.
But
which is a
tons
great
of
fishing
birds,
spot.
and also tons of people just right there on the other side,
catching. All
just
right.
just fishing in Mexico, and you're just like,
Very
Oh, no,
weird
go with that.
circle of life, I guess. All right, cool.
But at this point, I mean, we've reached Mexico, which
Yeah.
is so cool. I don't know enough to be driving in Mexico yet. That's one of my goals, to figure all that out. But at this point,
It's not that
to
big of a
me,
deal.
pretty much finished up the great North American road trip. Because the
As
whole
south as
idea
possible.
was we were tracing the edge of the continent as much as we could.
Yeah.
And at this point, it was like, if you keep tracing, you're going to go into Mexico. Or you got to turn northwest and start to go inland.
And here's actually where
So we started going inland.
And here's where I disagree with Adam on this, because I think this is still a continuation of the Great North American Road Trip, because you're seeing the difference in how the United States treats borders.
Mhm.
And that's part of what makes North America. Because you go up to Canada and the borders are open. You have to go through border crossing stations, but if you're in a more remote area, you just have to call it in. Hey, I'm crossing into Canada, or vice versa. But if you go by the US-Mexican border, it is
It's
heavily militarized.
Yeah.
And in the places where there isn't a physical border,
Except for right at the end, which was wild.
Yeah.
But
but in the places
Still
where there
different.
isn't a physical border, Border Patrol can pull you over at any time for any reason. You have to have documentation on you.
U.S. Border Patrol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
we saw that at one point where we were miles away from the border, and there was a 2-lane street, and it turned into a 1-way street right after the light, and the person pulled right ahead of the Border Patrol as they were supposed
not
to.
even really cutting them off, just
Not
pulling
cutting
ahead.
them off. And they immediately turned on their siren, pulled them over, and like you could see them asking for documentation, and then they just let them go. But they could be pulled over at any time for any reason, and it was always, we could tell, a test of what's your skin color and what's your accent.
100%. 100% out
They
there.
looked at us, they had us say something, and then they let us go.
Yeah, because every time you go near the border, even if there isn't something right at the border, when you're driving away towards inland again,
Yeah.
there'll be a station where they'll stop you and they'll be like, do you have any people in there?
Yeah.
And they looked at us,
Heard our
and
accents.
we got waved through right away. And we had tons of stuff. We could have had
You
like
could have buried some
4 or
people.
5 people buried
Yeah.
under
All your
stuff.
yeah.
And I was like worried. I was like, we might get searched because
Yeah.
we have a lot of stuff. Nope.
But long story short, they got their cocaine across. So good job. Good job.
But yeah, I mean, at this point, after seeing like the easternmost end of the U.S.-Mexico border, we just start tracing it, going inland toward past Brownsville, McAllen, Texas. A lot of these just kind of border towns around the Rio.
Laredo.
Well, we end up in
Yeah.
Laredo, Texas. Finally start getting some amazing Mexican food again. After being in Canada for so long, just getting like proper delicious Mexican food again.
The more west
such
you
a
go,
treat.
it gets better.
I mean, when you are like half a mile from the Mexican border,
Oh, you
you're
better.
getting some darn good
Better.
food. You are getting some darn good food just wherever you go.
And it's interesting because a lot of these towns, you could tell, are actually one larger town or city that's
Totally.
been divided.
A river
because of the-
town.
Exactly. So you
Yeah.
have one side, the U.S. side and the Mexican side, but they're supposed to be one town or city, just like a natural one would form around us.
Sure.
But the U.S. took claim of that area in the 19th century, so that's also really relatively
Yeah.
recent. And people also were allowed to cross back and forth until even more recently. So you
Mhm.
have these towns that are just being strangled by these political tensions, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't be. This is supposed to
Yeah.
be one town. It's the way humans are meant to develop these places.
No, humans created the lines.
Yeah.
It is gorgeous out there too. I mean, even along the border, or along the Gulf rather, it starts to get deserty as you get into South Texas.
Oh yeah.
And then as you go, you wind your way up the Rio Grande, it starts to just get to that beautiful, like, Southwest desert kind
This
of
is
thing.
where
It's just so much fun to drive through.
This is where I don't want to hear people that go, oh, it's flat. You know, there's beauty going up the 5 freeway in California in the flat areas. There's beauty in the deserts. You just got to appreciate that stuff. So this is old man Jeff saying, don't you appreciate the deserts.
This is very easy to appreciate
The
out here, though,
desert?
truly. The desert.
There's more alive than you think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's so much going on there.
Oh, yeah.
Just
here
not
it is.
during the day because it's hot, but if you're there at night, you start to see the animals around, you start to hear noises, and you realize, like, why would I'm not out here during the day.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot there.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we wake up in Laredo. It's day 59. We get some breakfast tacos, which is a very Texas thing. We got breakfast burritos here in Southern California, but they have breakfast tacos. And honestly, like, shout out to Texas for that, because that's a tasty time.
We need that out here.
That is just a tasty time.
I've had some breakfast tacos. They're good.
Yeah.
I crave breakfast tacos on the regular.
I think we had tacos for like every meal for like 3 or 4 days straight at this point, because just like we're just Californians getting back into the tasty Mexican food zone.
Well, I was gonna say, for people that don't know, California and those kind of areas, we're breakfast burritos for some reason, and then for some reason we do this, division of, then you go to Texas for, they're just tacos, breakfast tacos. So it's just kind of funny.
It's all good.
That it's like, and it's all good, it's all delicious. But it's like, I don't know a single place in California where you could get like breakfast taco.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
Right? So.
But you can get a breakfast burrito in Texas, but you're gonna get the taco.
You're gonna get the tacos,
it's all
and those are few
good.
and far
It's all
between.
good.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
we literally went to just like this little gas station place, and it was absolutely like top notch delicious.
Okay.
Like that's just the vibe.
Cool.
But yeah, day 59, we keep on kind of hugging the Rio Grande, keep on, seeing the border. Every so often you'd get really close on the highway and you wouldn't even necessarily see the river. It's just a little thicket of bushes. And then it's like, on the other side of that thicket, that's Mexico. When we're just driving
Isn't
there.
that crazy?
You see this like town over there, and you're like, oh, that's on the other side of the border.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we just keep pulling in all these cool little towns right there on the border, and eventually we end up in Big Bend National Park, which is really out there, but deserves to be known as much as like, Canyonlands and all these like Grand Canyon, all these like much more known national parks. It is really cool out there. There's so much to see. There's just this gorgeous desert scenery, desert mountains.
But as the oceans were retreating long time ago, millions of years ago, or I'm not sure actually the exact date, go there and find out. But as the oceans
April
were
12th.
retreating,
I know, right?
as the oceans were retreating, you had this foresty alpine region slowly start turning into desert. But because it's at such a high altitude, some of that alpine area was like continued to stay. So you have bears, you have all these animals that you wouldn't expect to find in the desert, and they are genetically distinct from others are even pretty close by.
So cool.
Like,
it's so
relatively.
unique out there.
And it's a lush area too.
It's so
Up
diverse.
on the mountain it
Yes,
is, but
yes,
then you
yes.
go down and it's just like dry as bone desert everywhere. But you got this river, which is really a small river at the
Except
end of the day.
In some areas where it gets so intense that at one point when they were trying to explore this region, they sent a boat down the river, and it came out the other side of the canyon, and it was just smithereens. Because it
So
can
you get rapids
really
and
rough.
stuff like that. It's really interesting.
It's dynamic, and it's not an easy place to live. But because of that, it's a cool place to experience. And people do live here. And it's remote. You can see the night sky unlike any other place we were, except for up in the Arctic. It's one of the places where light pollution doesn't reach it.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, Big Bend National Park. That's one of the few places that's like truly pristine night skies. But yeah, one of the coolest things that we experienced really along this whole trip is in Big Bend National Park. We went to this little campground area, literally right there on the border. Walked up to the river. There was just some dudes on horses on the other side, and I just kind of waved at them like, I have okay Spanish. So I just struck up a conversation with them. At some point they said, oh, look behind you. Look behind you. I'm like, what? Why? So I look behind me and I just see a little patch of this like handmade art that's just sitting there with this little sign that just says like $10 per piece. And we're like, this is so cool. So we look out, we pick 2 pieces. I just like wave a $20 bill in the air, put it under a rock. We grab those 2 pieces and we head out, and they say thank you. So at some point, they just like quietly cross the river, cross the border, put their art out.
Okay.
convince people to buy it, and then at some point just quietly go across, collect their money, and bring it back. And that's fantastic.
Sure.
That's so much fun.
We also
to
saw
me.
horses playing in the river together.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
It was really cute.
Oh, that is cool.
There's total like honor system
Yeah.
too. I mean,
I
there's
respect
nothing
that.
anyone
Yeah.
could have done if we were just like, well, screw you, we're gonna take this. But it's like
Yeah.
so cool to be able to just be like, here's the payment, thanks.
Kind of nice to be a good human being, right?
Right?
That's
It's
cool.
because in Big Bend National Park, the border isn't just policed by Border Patrol, it's also through the National Park System. So it's
It's a little bit more relaxed.
it's more relaxed,
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, they have border crossings at certain times, but it's not like heavily militarized in the exact same way as if you leave the National Park System.
And they say don't buy from these people, but do buy from these people because that's awesome. That's so
And you get to
cool.
support their local
Small
economy.
local,
yeah.
Their
Yeah.
art is beautiful. I mean, someone pointed out, like, oh, you can get this art anywhere else along the border, but that art there was made by them. You could see the handiwork, the way that they worked on the beading and the copper wiring.
Yeah.
We got a little, like, road runner. We actually saw a few road runners.
Like
and that was
straight
cool.
up Roadrunners,
It came
yeah,
up
straight
to
out of
beg.
Looney Tunes.
At the tables we were at, it comes there every morning to beg for food scraps.
Ah.
And it knows this one lady in particular usually gives it food scraps. That day she didn't. She was like, I'm not giving you any, I'm sorry. And it kind of begged a little bit more and then moved on. But
So cool.
Funny.
it's a
Yeah.
smart bird.
Yeah.
Really smart bird.
They're a pretty bird too.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, we spend the night in this really cool, just kind of like drive-in hotel right outside of the park in an area called Terlingua. We're there during off-season. I mean, it's August, so it's peak heat. So that's usually a time where people don't go there. People go during like the winters and the springs where it's a lot more
Yeah,
temperate.
more manageable.
So I mean, it was like just us and some locals out there. It was
Nice.
super quiet, super relaxed, and we just had the whole place to ourselves,
Nice.
which was awesome. So we spent the night there, got up on day 60 of the trip, popped back into the park to see one more site, popped back out. We're almost done
Yeah.
at this point, especially because we're in West Texas.
And we're weaving along the border the whole time.
Yeah.
Occasionally dipping up a little bit as the road leads us places.
'Cause, yeah, the road doesn't always go right next to the border, but we made sure to choose the roads that went the closest.
Okay.
So we went up from there to a town called Marfa, Texas, which is known for its art scene as well as for this mysterious phenomenon called the Marfa Lights, where evidently for like hundreds of years or something, people standing around at night can sometimes see lights in the distance moving at impossible speeds, and
Different
they've never
colors.
found an official explanation for
There's
this.
theories, but because they're not happening at regular times, and by the time they would be able to get out to where they thought they saw the lights, you also can't tell how far it is.
Yeah.
It's gone, so you can't see if it's something to do with the gases, something to do with the minerals in the rock, something to do with the temperature or the electricity in there. They haven't been able to
mystery.
prove anything.
It's a
Alright.
cool little town. I mean, a bunch of artists have taken up residence there. It's remote, but if you're driving through West Texas, it's a must stop.
Now you're trying to hit very like border routes and stuff. Do these things kind of circle to the next road, or do you have to backtrack?
They all connect.
Yeah, they
Yeah?
connect pretty
Okay.
darn well. I mean, there's certain areas where it's like you could go an hour out of your way to just touch the border and then come back if you really want to obsess over getting like the closest points. But
Okay.
we were
Okay.
hugging it as much as was reasonable to keep us moving along.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And yeah, from Marfa, which is a little further from the border, we drive through El Paso, which is right there on the border. We finally let the Rio Grande behind as the Rio Grande goes up through New Mexico. From there, so we finally were able to cross the river that had defined the border through the entirety of Texas,
Okay.
which was neat.
That is cool.
And we rejoined the I-10. Beautiful, nice, easy interstate. Easy, smooth, fast driving. Passed through just the southern bit of New Mexico, like real quick. At this point, we're really close. So you can get to El Paso in one long days of driving.
Okay.
So once we hit El Paso, we're like, oh, we're almost home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just passed through the southern little tip of New Mexico. There's not too much down there. There's town of Las Cruces, We didn't really
fantastic
stop
hot
there this time.
dog spot.
They do.
Oh,
Andelez.
I haven't
Andelez
accepted.
dog something. Dog house is a great place to eat there.
Okay.
From there, yeah. From there, popped into Arizona. We found a hotel decent distance ahead.
And
Now this,
Jinx, you owe me a soda.
What was that?
this is peak monsoon time in the Arizona deserts.
Huh.
So you
Wouldn't
think
guess
Arizona, beautiful blue skies, dry as a bone.
Yeah.
In August, they get these intense storms. This one was actually the worst storm we went through on the whole trip. There was 3.
I've ever experienced.
Yeah, there was one in Gander, Newfoundland that was very intense.
Most intense lightning strike that we've
It was
ever
very
seen.
close. Yeah, we got some
us.
close lightning strikes there.
But here,
Orlando, Florida, crazy rain, crazy lightning. Here, especially because the storm hit right as the sun went down,
Okay.
and we were just driving through the dark interstate, but it wasn't dark. It was actually more jarring when the lightning stopped for like 2 to 3 seconds.
which is the most dangerous time because the lightning strike, especially if it's really close to you, like these were right off the road. We were seeing it hit.
Boom, 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 boom,
Nonstop.
boom. It was like a rave to the amount of light. So when it stopped for a couple seconds, it was like, oh, I'm plunged into darkness.
Yeah.
Not, oh, that was a flash of light.
Yeah.
It was the darkness was more surprising than the light.
Because your eyes aren't adjusted to that
Not
point because
yet,
the lightning
yeah.
strikes light things up even more than the day because it's just this white light.
Okay.
And I was getting pictures
Close.
of
We're going
this.
through the mountains. It was
So,
dangerous.
I was-
Stupid
yeah.
dangerous.
Can people see this on your pages?
Yeah.
Because
there's-
she took a couple pictures,
Where you
I
could
think, where you could
see-
see some of the lightning.
through the camera frame, the way it caught it, half of the picture is illuminated this white, blinding white light, and the other half is just black. You can't see anything.
Okay.
And we got quite a few pictures of this. All of this is on our Adam's Instagram. And it was terrifying. People were just pulling off and stopping on the freeway,
That's, yeah.
which is just super dangerous.
Yeah.
But they didn't know what else to do, and we did manage to make it into the hotel, and things were getting close. I could see the lightning strikes hitting.
And we were like
right off
going
the
through like
freeway.
deep puddles and
Keep
stuff
talking.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were going through like these deep, intense puddles. It was actively like seriously scary.
Yeah.
We and then once we got into the hotel, like I couldn't even like park and walk in. It was literally like a shower coming down.
With really good pressure.
Yeah.
The woman working at the hotel was commenting about. She was like, "Wow, this is really."
It looked like
intense."
hurricane footage where
Yeah.
you would just see like these sheets of rain just blowing and billowing and just tossing things up. Like it looked like the end of the world. And eventually, like half an hour later, it just stopped.
Oh gosh.
Because there's these little storms, but it was hanging over us as we were driving. So we were driving through the worst of the worst of the worst of it. But if you were just still, it would have just been a passing crazy storm. But we were driving like under
With it.
with it and everything. It was crazy. Finally got in, like literally I just had to like jump out to the car just to park it from just being
Oh, I
like
was
by
so
the entrance.
scared when you did that.
And it was literally like scary to go from like near the entrance to a nearby parking spot and run in. And I was soaked just doing that.
You don't know
Soaked.
if you're just gonna happen to attract a lightning bolt.
Yeah, it was that close. It was like I could be hit at any moment.
I have never been so scared for him. I was in the hotel room and I was like, "Can I come out with you?" And he was like, "No, you need to stay here."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just counting the seconds. I was
So
looking
we
at my
were like
clock.
hiding inside after this, and eventually it passed and everything, but it was rough. But yeah, we stayed over in a town called Benson, Arizona, right along the I-10.
Okay.
They were super helpful.
Yeah, great little place, and I'm glad we picked that because we would not have been able to make it any further. It was like
Should
actively
have
that
pulled
bad.
off sooner
Yeah,
than we
it
did.
was actively like some of the most dangerous driving conditions
Yeah.
I had ever been
Actually,
through. Right there in Arizona.
A truck cut us off throughout all that too. Remember that?
Intense, really
you had to slam
intense
on your
stuff,
brakes, which was
you
super
don't know if you
scary.
can do when the road is
You
a
don't have a
river.
hydro-
Pickup truck, a
plane.
big rig truck.
A big rig,
Yep.
Oh,
big
Oh.
rig.
But they're
Yeah.
also,
They could be fun sometimes.
but I'm sure from their perspective, you know, they need to get over around this truck because they don't want to be slamming on their brakes behind a
Yeah.
slower truck.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their thought is,
it's just a
is
bad
there-
situation.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
a dangerous situation. So careful about that right there in Arizona. It's not as dry as you think.
Yeah.
I mean, real quick, I had a friend who was a truck driver, and I asked him what's like one of the most annoying things, and so all you have to do is you have to realize that these are trucks that weigh a lot. So when
Yeah.
something weighs a lot and they're that big, it takes a lot more for them to do a complete stop. So when you're
Yeah.
driving and you think, oh, you know, this slow truck or something, you know, you have to give them a lot of space. So respect the truck driver in that sense. And then
Respect the truck
Yeah.
driver, but also expect the truck driver to respect you.
yeah,
Hopefully.
and they don't get me wrong, they'll do some crazy stuff too, but it's just kind of funny because anyway. But the truck
But yeah,
driver,
we survived that night, and then after this is the last day of the trip. We finally made it to the last day.
and we're okay. Where
And
are you?
so we're in the middle of Arizona,
yeah.
along the I-10. Along this stretch, there were roads that you could get a lot closer to Mexico, but we decided to hug the border much more in Texas, and just
Okay.
through that New Mexico and Arizona bit, just get going towards California. But once we got towards California, we took the I-8, which goes a lot closer to the border, went
Okay.
through like that whole El Centro area, and so actually near that whole, so we got much closer to the border back in California, which was very interesting. Went through
Okay.
the whole kind of Inland Empire Valley where it's actually below sea level, and finally got our in and out at the end of the trip. I mean, you know, I'd been missing that. It had been 61 days without in and
Going
out.
through withdrawal at that point.
Yeah, so I was ready to get my fix again. It was so good. So good getting back into that.
I know. I'm trying to think. I'm like, I wonder if you map it if there was one in Arizona at all. But yeah,
I'm sure there
would
would have been,
you gotta have
but
to California.
it's different in California.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's the go-to. In-N-Out's worth it.
Right.
It's a good burger.
At this point, we pointed ourselves towards San Diego because we wanted to experience what both ends of the U.S.-Mexican border were like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
How we
fair
wanted
enough.
to just experience that.
Yeah, that was our last stop on the trip, was wanting to see. I mean, we had seen where the Mexican border hit the Gulf,
Yeah.
and we wanted to see where the Mexican border on the other side hit the Pacific, just for completion.
Sure. Yeah. I
And
mean, it would almost kill you not to, right?
But what was really interesting is after driving so much through Texas and then being in the California section of the border,
Uh-huh.
Texas along the Rio Grande did not have a wall. California did.
had a barbed wire
Ugly ass
Yeah.
thing.
dividing into the ocean. So you just see people on the other side, you know, having a wonderful beach day. There's music, there's food, you could just smell the barbecue. And we're on the other side where it is just empty on the beach. There all of a
You're
sudden
not
there's-
even allowed to get close. Like, you start to walk near
we were
the
like
border,
50
and there's
feet from the
and
the
there
border,
and then there's some like border patrol that just like turns on
Hey.
their lights. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, stop it, get away from it. It's like, really?
we're not even close at this point. You know, we're like walking toward it, but we weren't close. We could have yelled at someone. They could have heard every word we said.
Sure. Have a conversation.
We could have like, you know, bought some street food like through the fence if they had allowed us to get that close.
Did you see any of those? At least those like teeter-totter things that are like on the border, and you can like teeter-totter.
No,
with,
I've heard of
Mexican-
those, but it wasn't
Okay.
certainly not right there.
Not there. Too
It's a
much
cool
heat, huh?
spot to visit though, because you see some islands off the coast that are part of Mexico. You just see the thriving beaches in Tijuana and everything. You can't get right up to it with car, but you can park nearby and just take a little stroll out to that area. It was seriously cool.
You could tell with the Border Patrol agents, no matter where you are, there's this level of disrespect toward people. Where we were, in fact, walking on this walking path with other people, and there's this Border Patrol agent. What kind of vehicle were they driving?
Little ATV kind of thing.
They zip really close by, and people are literally jumping out of the way and being
Dust
like,
is going up in your
and we're
face.
just like,
You're like,
what
come
the heck?
on, dude.
Why?
You don't need to be doing all
there's
this.
this level of disrespect just
Yeah.
towards other people because they're in a position of authority, and that's the same no matter where you go. You're attracting these people who almost get high off of feeling like they have something on someone else.
Yeah.
And is that really what we want to be encouraging?
Right.
It's just seeing that no matter where you are along the border, you get that.
Especially
attitude.
that on the Mexican side, you go right up to the fence.
Yeah.
And people were hanging out at the beach, eating, playing, just having a good time.
Some guy came close to like the fence, being like, "Want to buy these flowers?"
And we weren't able to. I would have loved to do something. That would have been so cool. But yeah, that was our last stop on the trip, and then we were just like, great. Here's the Pacific. Smells like home.
Smells like home.
Drove up through San Diego County, Orange County, and
the 5.
yeah.
All right.
And then hit the 405, and then got off at Western, and then here we are back in Torrance.
Here we are back in. So, you know, people driving. San Diego used to be a 2-hour drive for the most part. I don't know. Do you remember how long maybe it took you? You probably took
A little more than that.
stops.
Wasn't too bad.
It's like
well, after that, we were
2:30
ready to
now.
get home.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, we had been gone for 61 days,
done.
and we had driven 22,000 miles.
And every
At
day
this
we were
point.
driving these long hours. So 2.5 hours was nothing.
A blink of the eye.
Yeah.
Absolute blink. Like,
We're like, oh, it's the
literally
last
nothing.
stretch.
Yeah. Especially as it starts to get familiar and like, I mean, we had been by, this was like our third ocean. We'd been by the Arctic Ocean and the Atlantic. And it's just like, oh, the Pacific, especially in this area. It just, it smells different. It feels different.
Feels like home.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to make it clear, there were a lot of towns where the patrons came out and they looked sad because they didn't stop. They just kept going, and they're just like, you know, they're just like, come on, you know. So anyway, no, that's cool. That's your trip.
That's our trip. 61 days, 22,000 miles, and yeah, going everywhere.
I know. Please
That's what
watch
it
the other.
takes.
Yeah, there's multiple parts to this thing. It's just like it. Obviously, felt like a journey just hearing it. You know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, the amount that you
Modern day
did.
epic.
I want to do it myself. I know it's your honesty.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you all
That's
for
awesome.
joining us on our adventures. If you want to check out more, Adam did a really good job documenting it on his Instagram. It's Aloha Shirt Dad with underscores between each word. You can view each day with a synopsis of where we were, what we did, and pictures of our adventures.
Usually where we ate.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you want him to plan your next road trip, just feel free to DM him.
I
and
got
he will.
advice everywhere at this point.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you have any advice or tips that you want to share, also please reach out to us because we love learning more about how to road trip better.
We're so you're gonna be. I mean, I got trips planned for this year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So join us
no.
next time.
Follow, pay attention. You know, get some tips and all that stuff. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ask your neighbor in the South Bay because there's always something going on here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I do this kind of jokingly, but like and subscribe also, all that stuff, you know, gotta do that.
I mean, here we have someone who is going around asking people, you know, about their adventures and documenting what life is like here in the South Bay, and that's really special.
Yeah, no. So yeah, hey South Bay and all that. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. What a journey, and we'll keep in touch for sure.
Absolutely. Enjoy your screech.
I know, I will. All by myself. But anyway, all right, take care everybody.
Hey everybody, guess what? I wrote an illustrated children's book. I am super excited for this. It's a great book, so please support, please buy, please do whatever you feel like doing. The Giraffe and the Lion. Find it anywhere. Thanks everybody.